Um, the, th the thing today is that we've got a lot of these devices. You know, um, Amazon is selling a lot of them. You've got Forrester projecting almost like 50% of households to be having a device in the next 5 years, right? The problem, though, with such devices is that most of the apps that are, most of the skills that are on it are very basic. You know, you ask it a question, it's got this command response thing, and it gives you an answer back. In contrast, when we talk with humans, you know, we ask a general question, the system gets us an answer back partly, it asks us questions, and you end up having basically a conversation. We want to make that be very easy for anyone today. So I'm part of the immersion team here at Salesforce, and one of the things we're trying to do is push emerging technology so that it works more effectively with us humans, right? And that's part of this framework that we're announcing in the next few weeks. It's an open source library, and it's trying to make the basic parts of building a voice application very easy. You know, there's a certain amount of boilerplate code. You put in the thing that's saying, you know, like, what's next on my to-do list, and it responds back, right? This is just JavaScript, no JS code. And by making this basic part extremely easy, we're allowing you to actually focus on the business logic. That's really the smarts behind any system. And so in this case, it's really, we're going to ask against a query service, we're going to get an item, and we're going to respond with that. The system underlying has, you know, very easy capabilities so that you can run it, you can debug it locally, and has instructions so that you can deploy it on different devices. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have actually created a skill to run on Amazon Echo? Okay, so got a few of you. We want to make that be very easy so that you don't necessarily need to dig in to figuring out how to deploy to Lambda, you know, and so on. Using this framework, it runs as a standalone thing, and then once you know, either on Heroku or on your own servers, and then you register it. So that's the basic code. If you want to get an input from a user, all you have to do is declare the type on top there, and you just say, you know, this is the parameter that I want, and you can do it on the list. So let me test if this is working. What is the current time? It's trying to, it's having Wi-Fi issues, I think.
It's 1:34 p.m.
Okay, awesome. So ask QuipBot, what is next on my to-do list?
The next item is to write up a test.
Right. So in this case, this is a particular document that I've been working on. I've got a service that's checking up against it, and it's returning and it's trying to have a conversation with me on that. Right. So I can do things like add review with Gina to the list.
Gina added to your shopping list.
Okay, sorry, I got that. Ask QuipBot, add review with Gina to the list.
Got it. I added review Gino to the checklist.
Okay, so you're noticing a certain set of issues, right? Firstly, you know, Amazon has their basic capabilities there, but then we can allow you to, in this case, have created this thing called QuipBot, which interacts with your Quip service, right? And I was intending Gina. It recognized it as Gino. In most cases, that's good enough. Of course, you want to get that right. You can have some logic behind the scenes. This is where you can make it smarter, because recognition can only get you so far. And you add some logic to say, okay, do we want it to be Gino or Gina? So, kind of got into this. Violet is a Node and Express framework. We want to make it really easy, as I showed you, to create the basic skills. But the part that I want to focus on is that second thing there. We want to allow you to create very sophisticated bots. And by doing that, we're hoping that there's going to be a new era of focusing on voice experience. When the web came out, people were first playing with little toy, a few line web pages, and then eventually they started focusing on actual business needs, right? The era of single page applications eventually dawned, like we want to make that happen for voice. We're not saying that the future is only going to be completely voice-based, but we want to be able to allow you to do that so that you can have the right balance of running things on a mobile device or on a voice-based device and something sitting around. We're expecting in the next year, Amazon's going to be having an Echo device in most office desks, right? With such capabilities, you can think about the possibilities that you can build. We want to make that be really easy. Beyond that, we've built a number of examples for different use cases, and so we've got a whole list of sample projects out there that you can play with. You can look at the code, and of course, you can build it by yourself. So the question then becomes, how do you make these voice conversations be, how do you add the sophisticated capabilities? And the metaphor that I use is when you're having when you're trying to put a lot of logic in front of, in JavaScript or Java, you basically group things in methods and classes and so on, right? We came up with a metaphor of a goal. And a goal at the end of the day is a small shared intent that a human and a bot are going to have. And once you define these goals, the system will start to try to help you manage that. Now, there's different, Amazon has done different versions of these, the classical systems, they call them dialogues, they're very constrained. We're thinking about a way that we can map it to how people actually think. So I'll give you an example of these. So if I say to remind me for a certain item, in this particular case, if you've got, let me show you an example, I guess. So out here, if I add two different headings, so I've got two headings, and if I'm asking, ask Quipbot, add review with John to the list.
Sure. I found two categories. Category 1 is to-dos. Category 2 is bug fixes. Would you like to use one of these categories?
Use category 2.
Got it. I added review visual to the checklist.
So
Anything else?
That's it. So if you'll get it, it's still messing up on names, I guess. But here I added some logic, and in this particular case, notice that there's two different categories, and then therefore it asks a follow-up question. So that's basically what I'm showing you here. In this, in a basic implementation, you'd see there's more than one category, and then by default you would say you'd ask the question, you add that goal. When the person responds, then you can appropriately add logic. Now, this is the basic version. We first added capability for this. It's a very simple goal primitive. And then we noticed that it was happening often enough, so we've got an easier version to do it. You basically just add a goal right up front on the right-hand side. You define the goal, you ask what prompt it is, and the system will basically try to help you by keeping on prompting. Of course, with goals, we want to let you do even more. And we've added a Salesforce plugin. You can, again, if you want to have code that queries Salesforce, for example, you can do that very easily. In this case, you configure fields that you care about so that you can just say, hey, I want to load so-and-so data. And so loading becomes as simple as saying, hey, I care about the built-in type lead, I care about names and the company information, so it'll get that automatically and it'll appropriately respond. This is for loading. You can store data, you can update in the same way. Of course, we've tried to provide a very simple API, but you can give it SOCL directly to the system as well. Beyond, of course, the Salesforce plugin, as I said, we've got a bunch of different examples. We've got a Quip example. We're looking at different service cases. One of the demonstration examples that I was working with internally was for diabetes. So we've got something, you can see how we built it. Hopefully it will give you ideas. Hopefully you can use something like that for your own needs, and we'd love to hear what you guys create. We've got plugins so that you can easily query, of course, the Salesforce database. Salesforce is a database, get the data out of it, put data in there, but also use Postgres, depending on your needs. So with that, I'd love you guys to try it out. I'd love to hear what you guys say. The website's on the right-hand side. We've got the code. There's a link to it, to samples. You can easily deploy it. It'll guide you step by step through it. Especially for people that have not built a voice app yet, that care about actually adding the smarts and the business logic. We think you'll get up and running very fast. Of course, if you built a skill before, if you have some expertise here, I think this is a really interesting opportunity to make it not be, I'm going to say, brain dead in terms of what voice capabilities you have, and really take it up a notch. So with that, I just wanted to quickly mention this. I've had the great fortune of getting really good feedback. This is from a whole team, and this is sort of the first iterations that we've gotten out, and I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm right here, and thank you. Open-ended things are really hard, and recognition systems get it off today. So I wouldn't say that that's your ideal use case, but yes, you can take open-ended things, you can put it into the system. You will have to deal with the error rates, but if you give it a lot of different samples, like Amazon recommends several hundred different examples of different kinds of notes, and then that gets the recognition errors in better shape. In some of those cases, actually, I would almost recommend to use some balance of a voice and your phone. You can, Amazon has capabilities, and we can hook into that, where you say, hey, I want to get this information from the user. It'll show up, pop up a card in your app, and then you can give in some information there. Just getting the right place to put in the right information. Yeah? Sorry? Authentication. Yeah, so everything that we've done at the end of the day right now boils down to Alexa skills. And Alexa, and then theoretically we can support anything else. Alexa does have a way of authenticating. This should be compatible. We don't have any native support yet to make that be extremely easy. But they have this capability called linking. Now, on my to-do list actually is like literally in the next few months is to support authentication so that we can make that happen. But regardless, you can at the very least build it yourself. There's different ways you could do it. One way is a lot of the samples you will see it's using environment variables in Heroku, so you can give it keys and it'll be hard-coded with that rights. But of course, being able to do something like SSO login will be awesome, and I really want to make that happen. Sorry? Yeah. So you can theoretically use this on any engine. Right now, in the main use cases we've been testing, and what lots of our customers are asking for is on Alexa, because everyone has that. You could theoretically run it on Google. Google, I believe, supposedly has higher word error, has better word error rates. We want to do deeper integrations, and we want to have examples so that we can do it easily using Google's engine as well. But we're not there yet. If you're interested in pulling stuff with Google, drop me a note. Any other questions? Okay, cool. I guess we'll wrap it up. Please reach out. I'd love to hear what you guys are building and try to make this be easier. Sorry, you got it? Oh, a card. Yes, I do have cards. And you should be able to find me on on the website as well. We're going to have a discussion place there, and we can talk more.